Good morning, Commissioners, Chief Choi, Mr. Sibley, Madam Secretary, Acting Inspector General Florence Yu, City Attorney Carlos De La Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, July 9th, 2024. It's 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioners Suthers, Shields, Calanche, and Garcia are present, and we have a quorum. Mr. President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this meeting this morning. The Police Commission is committed to ensuring equal access to its meetings. It is requested that individuals who require the services of a translator contact the board secretary no later than the day preceding the meeting. Whenever possible, a translator will be provided. Sign language interpreters, assistive listening devices, or other auxiliary aids and/or services may be provided upon request. To ensure availability, you are advised to make your request at least 72 hours prior to the meeting you wish to attend. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. The order of speakers will be a speaker in this room will go first, then we will take a speaker watching today's meeting on Zoom. We will alternate between speakers in the room and Zoom for a total of 45 minutes. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board, so you are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinions shall be deemed off topic and your public comment period will be concluded. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Message for those attending the meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. I'd also appreciate it if no one would speak while I'm giving this opening preamble. Thank you very much. During these meetings, there's a need for the board to carry out the public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of this meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal from the meeting. At this time, we'll move to item number 1, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief Choi.
Thank you, and good morning, President Suthers, Vice President Shields, Commissioners, Acting Inspector General Yu, City Attorney De La Guerra, and Acting Executive Director Mr. Sibley. So I'm going to cover 2 weeks of significant events today in my comments. I'll start with an officer-involved shooting out of Southeast Division. So on July 3rd, approximately 2100 hours, Southeast Area Uniform Patrol officers attempted to initiate a traffic stop on a white 4-door sedan at Broadway and Rosecrans Avenue. The suspect's vehicle initially began to accelerate away, but stopped suddenly on Broadway north of Rosecrans. Before officers could exit their police vehicle, the suspect, armed with a fully automatic weapon, fired at officers without warning. An officer-involved shooting occurred when one of the officers returned fire. The suspect vehicle fled the scene. It is unknown at this time if the suspect was struck by gunfire. Officers attempted to follow the suspect's vehicle for approximately 200 yards, but lost sight of the vehicle in the area of 135th Street and Broadway. Both officers sustained cuts and scratches from glass fragments caused by the suspect's round striking the police vehicle's windshield, and one of the officers also received graze wounds to his head. The Los Angeles Fire Department personnel transported the officers to a local hospital where they were treated for the injuries and released the following morning. Numerous rifle casings from the suspect's weapon were recovered from the scene. No other officers or citizens were injured during this incident. Force Investigation Division and Robbery Homicide Division investigators responded to the scene and are investigating this incident. And I just want to say that this was a horrific act of violence carried out against our officers. We're going to do everything that we can to bring the suspect to justice. I'm thankful that these officers are alive. I had an opportunity to review some of the body worn video footage. Or digital in-car video footage. It was absolutely incredible, a sudden and violent act. And I just want to say that I do appreciate all the difficult work that our officers are doing every day. I also want to talk about some street racing takeover incidents that occurred over the past week. So on June 28th, a street racing federal task force was deployed to monitor street racing activity in Central, West, and South bureaus. They focused on patrolling areas known for frequent street racing activity, and the task force completed their shift in the early morning of June 29th, so the following morning. But at approximately 0300 hours on the 29th, a street takeover occurred at the intersection of Main Street and 18th Street, resulting in 2 vehicles catching fire. Preliminary investigations indicate that 1 vehicle caught fire while performing donuts in the intersection. The second vehicle appeared to be intentionally placed against the first vehicle in an attempt to have it also catch fire. The Los Angeles City Fire Department Arson Unit is conducting the investigation into the incident with the assistance from the Street Racing Task Force detectives. Additionally, on July 1st at 0310 hours, uniformed officers from the Central Patrol Division responded to a radio call about a street takeover in the area of Flower Street and Olympic Boulevard. Upon officers' arrival, the street takeover dispersed. Dispatch updated the call, indicating that an MTA bus, which had been stuck in the traffic during the takeover, had been vandalized by participants in the takeover, who also ignited fireworks in the direction of the bus. All suspects had fled the scene at the time of officers' arrival, and the officers completed a vandalism report. The MTA driver and passengers on the bus were not injured. Some current strategies I'd like to discuss, or current efforts that we're taking against those participating in street takeovers include, we're working with Street Racing Kills organization to show offenders the consequences of their actions. We're trying to identify organizers of street takeovers and seek criminal prosecution. Working with the Los Angeles County Probation to locate and violate repeat and violent offenders. We're requesting assistance with legislation forfeitures in relation to vehicles used for illegal street takeovers. We're requesting additional filings for felony vandalism on public roadways after participating in takeovers. And we're also assuming a zero tolerance posture on all takeover activity in the city. I also want to talk about our Remembrance Walk. So on June 30th, the LAPD Family Support Group held their annual 5K Remembrance Walk. And I want to thank all that were in attendance from the department and the family and friends. So this event honors officers who lost their lives in the line of duty and support the families and children of our fallen officers. It was held at the Los Angeles Police Academy in Elysian Park, and the day included the 5K walk, a children's run, and breakfast for all attendees. It was well intended by department members as well as the family and friends, and it serves as a heartfelt tribute to honor the memory of the 239 fallen members of the LAPD. And moving on to crime. So as of July 6, 2024, violent crime is up 3.3% or plus 494 compared to 2023. Property crime is down 3.3% or minus 1,783 compared to 2023. And overall, Part 1 crime is down 1.9% or minus 1,289. Part 1 crime arrests are up 4.6% as well. I'm happy to say that our homicides have continued to show a decrease. We are at 0.6% or plus 1 in homicides compared to 2023, and compared to 22, the city has seen a decrease of 19.6% or minus 39 in homicides. Our victims shot, citywide victims shot is down 87 or minus 12.7% compared to 2023, and down 208 or minus 27.9% compared to 2022. And we continue to see a decrease in this number as well. Our aggravated assaults are down 1.6% or minus 155 aggravated assault victims compared to 2023. And compared to 2022, aggravated assaults are down 7.2% or minus 759. We still are challenged with our robberies. So total robberies are up 18.4% or plus 773 compared to 2023. And compared to 2022, our total robberies are up 2.1% or plus 102. The areas that are most challenged or where we see our significant increases in robberies are Rampart Division with plus 136 or 52.1%, Newton area plus 116 or 38.5%, Southwest area plus 94 or 37.9%, and Wilshire area plus 69 or 39.2%. The premises in which these robberies are occurring are still remain consistent with the street, parkway, and sidewalks being the most significant or most prevalent premise type for these robberies to occur, followed by our smaller markets, clothing stores, liquor stores, gas stations. Those are up. That type of premise is up 43.1% or plus 375 in 24 compared to 23. Burglaries, our burglars are up 4% or plus 299 compared to 2023 and up 2.2% or plus 170 compared to 2022. Year to date, commercial burglaries are up 4.1% or plus 136 compared to 2023 and down 5.2% or minus 188 compared to 2022. Our commercial burglaries account for 44% of our total burglaries year to date, and where we're seeing our most significant increases in commercial burglaries are in Central Bureau. They're up plus 156 or 18.7%. In West Bureau, they're up plus 22 or 15.7%. And in South Bureau, they're up 58 or plus 58 or 13.8%. Year to date, our residential burglaries are up at 3.9% or plus 165 compared to 2023 and up 8.9% or plus 358 compared to 2022. Residential burglaries account for 56% of our total burglaries, and West Bureau, Operations West Bureau continues to see our largest increases at 7.3% or plus 110 compared to 2023. This increase in West Bureau is led by Wilshire Division, who has seen an increase of 86 additional residential burglaries, and Hollywood has also seen an increase of 71 additional residential burglaries. Our motor vehicle thefts are slowly decreasing, but we still have a year-over-year increase of 3.6% or plus 455 compared to 2023, and compared to 2022, our motor vehicle thefts are down 4.4% or minus 605. Our increases this year are seen still in Operations Valley Bureau at plus 28.9% or 856 more motor vehicle thefts, with Foothill having the largest increase percentage-wise at 42.3% or plus 157, and Mission has the largest numerical increase at 213 additional motor vehicle thefts. Our Kias, Chevys, and Hyundais still remain our top stolen vehicles. However, I think our efforts to work with the dealerships with Kia and Hyundais is starting to take an effect. We're seeing reporting decrease in those vehicles, even though they're the top ones. We've seen a 2.2% decrease in Kias being stolen, and we've seen a 11.4% decrease in Hyundais being stolen. So I think if you remember early on in the year, there was a YouTube video that showed people how to steal these types of vehicles. We've been working with the dealerships to reprogram these vehicles and do an educational campaign consistently throughout various bureaus, and I think that's paying off. Our sworn personnel strength stands at 8,810. Our civilian personnel staffing stands at 2,629, and our reserve officers remain at 396. Our officer-involved shooting data, year-to-date, we're at 17 officer-involved shootings compared to 11 for the same time period last year, plus 5. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for the update on the officers who were involved in that assault last weekend. I'm glad that I saw the photos of the police vehicle, and they're very fortunate, so I'm glad to hear that they're all right. And also, I want to thank the folks who turned up for the 5K walk. to acknowledge all the fallen officers in the history of the department. I do have a question about the street racing task force. What's our current policy as it relates to any vehicles that are out there at the scene? Are we able to seize those vehicles if we're able to detain them in any way? What's our current approach to getting to zero tolerance at some point?
Yes, part of our strategy is to have a zero tolerance approach at these takeover events. And that's going to be anything from citations for equipment violations to impounding for actual participating in the street racing. If somebody is driving on a suspended license, we'll do whatever we can to lawfully can to seize the property and to ensure that we're sending a clear message that this type of behavior won't be tolerated in the city. And we're also doing a very robust proactive approach to try to identify these events before they occur and to have resources available to respond accordingly. But we are at a zero tolerance posture on this.
Thank you. Now I'll open up for other comments or questions from other commissioners. Vice President Shields?
Thank you, President Suthers, and thank you, Chief, for the report. I echo President Suthers' comments about the horrific violence that came upon the officers when they were trying to do their daily job. And I think that example shows kind of the inherent dangerousness of traffic stops and the inherent dangerousness of everything that the officers do on a daily basis. And I would hope, and I think at some point I will ask the department to kind of pull together this example and others like it that show how fraught a traffic stop can be in terms of how dangerous it is when you're approaching a vehicle. And like these officers had to deal with someone who was armed with a fully automatic weapon, completely unprovoked, firing at them. And I think this is information that would be helpful for City Council as they continue discussing any attempts at changing traffic stops to be conducted by unarmed individuals. I think that would cause a lot of problems down the road. With respect to actually apprehending this person who shot at the officers, this person's license plate would have been captured by the officers. Is that right? Do we have that? Have we inputted it in all of the databases?
Yes, I can tell you there's a robust effort to identify the person or persons that were involved that evening. I don't want to get too much into any details of the investigation, but we are doing everything we can to identify this individual or individuals. And I would also ask the public if you have any information regarding this incident or something that can help us along the way in this investigation to please contact Robbery Homicide Division.
Thank you, Chief. And I don't want to get into the investigation, but I'm wondering whether, we've had prior reports about discussing automated license plate readers and other things like that. If that was kind of set up in the area or within parts of the city, would that have been something that could have helped detain this person much quicker or at all?
Without a doubt, I think technology nowadays, especially automated license plate readers, are absolutely beneficial to helping solve these types of incidents.
Please give us an update as soon as you have anything more to report on that. Hopefully that person is apprehended quickly. I had just one additional question about the rise in residential burglaries. Is there any kind of, particularly in West Bureau and others, but in Hollywood, I believe you mentioned, is there any kind of pattern in terms of the time of day or other things that can help identify when there needs to be additional patrol and whether there can be added resources given to that area with either the mounted or metro divisions?
Well, I would have to give you a look at a more deeper analysis, but I can tell you the majority of these notifications that I'm getting are happening in the PM hours from 6 o'clock in the evening to midnight. And some of these where people are, or residents are actually at home, which is what we would consider hot prowl, which becomes much more serious. But I will tell you, these are happening very quickly. well, I'll give it to, so we're not seeing the entire house being ransacked, the particular bedroom, particular location. So these individuals that are committing these type of high-end burglaries know what they're looking for, where they're going, and they're in and out in a few minutes.
To the extent we can come up with a plan to add additional resources of patrol for just deterrence purposes.
So let me answer your second part of the question. Yes, so absolutely, we know where these are occurring in clusters or more frequently than other areas. And we have added extra patrols in those neighborhoods. We've also changed kind of our patrol model where we're doing our high visibility patrols where we're turning on our lights as we drive around so everyone knows we're in the neighborhood. Our senior lead officers are doing neighborhood walks and talking to community groups and educating them about what they can and cannot do. I know there's a big concern about the suspects placing cameras surreptitiously across the street to monitor and survey, and I know those are happening in the county. I'm not aware of any instance where we've found in the city of that happening, but that's not to say that that's not happening in the city. So we're making sure that our community is aware and to be alert of their surroundings.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Chief, for the report. And if I can follow up a little bit on the burglaries or robberies, similar to what we've been doing as a department on the car and vehicle side in partnership with the dealers, has there been, and even with the catalytic converters, offering additional, whether it's IDing or tagging, or even the ability to weld cages on there? There's been a lot of effort to reduce that. On the burglary side in particular, have we done anything similar where we work with the alarm companies or the local technology companies that sell cameras, and are we able to provide some kind of programming or events where we either educate the community on it or provide free or discounted camera systems?
So not for the actual hardware itself. Well, I shouldn't say that. I know there's discussion with various camera providers about discounts in neighborhoods, things like that. But what we have been doing is educating our communities, such as their electrical panels, right? Burglars are going in there, opening up the electrical, just turning the power off, and then all their systems are down. So if you just put a lock on there, that will help prevent or deter that activity. We know there's Wi-Fi jammers being used, so all these cameras that are Wi-Fi, they jam the Wi-Fi and then they go in and they don't get recorded. We're talking with the appropriate folks, I believe, legislators, to try and get some type of legislation to outlaw Wi-Fi jammers, because there's no reason to have one for the public unless you're trying to disrupt somebody's system. So there are other efforts underway to try and curb the way burglars are accessing property undetected. So that's the effort that we're taking.
Okay, same question for the sort of less technology efforts, just like simple locks on the windows or even
Yes.
updated.
So what we call hardening the target, meaning senior lead officers will get with community groups, walk around the community, walk through homes, and they'll identify areas that are of vulnerability and explain to homeowners and community groups how to better secure a certain area, how to create more light in a certain area, trim back bushes where people can't hide behind bushes, things like that. So all that is occurring.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kalanche.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 2, public comment period. Madam Secretary, please announce the first speaker.
The first speaker, LaQuisha Latanya Duarte.
Chief said there's a no tolerance in street takeover, and somehow I feel I have no confidence in this, because I feel when LAPD is trying to enforce the law, but when we have a woke legislature are trying to loosen the law, I just feel this is a fight between the law enforcement and the legislature, and then the only thing we get out of this is the criminals are on the run. Second, I want to talk about the shooting yesterday, which is the chief didn't talk about. I believe is Hollywood area. And then finally, I see a very brave, responsible homeowner deal with the home invader correctly. And then I read on the news from the public information officer, LAPD, and he shot the suspect. One is injured on the scene, another one is on the run. And then I'm kind of happy because after thousands of homes getting invaded, getting looted, getting rioted, thousands of people in their home getting attacked, finally we have a responsible gun owner are doing something to protect, to stand on the ground. In the ideal world, I wish we don't have to do this. I wish I can call 911, LAPD arrive within 3 minutes in the ideal world. But right now, we get to a point that 911 is no longer an option. When the home invader is inside of my house, I do not have 10 minutes to wait for LAPD. It's really sad that we came to this stage. What happened? I don't know. The last thing I want to talk about, the reason why I want to apply to LAPD is because I want to deal with those crimes, the robbery, the murder, the rapist, the looting, the rioting. But right now I'm in a confused stage because I feel right now LAPD are playing identity politics. You get a promotion because of your DEI, not because of your meritocracy. You're talking about, you advertise you are a minority group, and then you get a special treatment. When we arrest, when the chief are saying that we are trying every best to find those suspects, but what do we do after we find those suspects? And then zero bail policy, and then the suspect is released on the run, that's it. And then different criminals are getting a different treatment. I apply to the LAPD not because I want to play with your DEI game. It's not because I want to become a woke politician. It's because I want to enforce the law and protect the public.
Thank you.
Next, we have Javier Hermosillo. Javier, you're on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, yes. What items would you like to speak on?
Good morning. I would like to speak on a singular item that relates to discipline in this department.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Now, yesterday, I participated in a board of rights for Assistant Chief Alabrada. I have been around this department and served this department for over 40 years and a variety of capacities. As a Board of Rights member, I am one of the original co-founders of what are now called CPABs in the harbor in 1989. The city took it citywide in 1993. I also created the Chiefs Community Forum with Chief Gates. And so my years of service to this department are validated. Yesterday, there was a Board of Rights for Assistant Chief Elabrada, who was accused of a number of charges relative to a relationship that he had, a legal one, appropriate one, approved by the department, with a female officer. It was a circus, and the city is now moving away from defense officers as reps to city attorneys. There were two city attorneys in this event yesterday who repeatedly interrupted the witnesses and ordered the board to strike all of this from the record. And therefore, there's no longer an accurate record of what took place in that board. The three board members, all three white men, were city judgment on Alfred Labrada, assistant chief, who should become the first Latino chief of the LAPD. But your boss, who appointed you, the mayor, has made it very clear by appointing former Civil Rights Commissioner Connie Rice to work with the woman future chief that the mayor wants to claim. She appointed the first woman chief, the woman is a nice woman. She is an African American, and so we've had two African American chiefs. But now the mayor is going to make sure that instead of the first Latino who represents 80% of the population in LA, instead of the 8% African American, and who represents the 60% of police officers who are Latino instead of 12%, is not going to get an opportunity to become chief. He was railroaded. He was found guilty on 6 charges that the Ontario Police Department investigated. The district attorney in San Bernardino County investigated because that's where he lives and said nothing occurred. But your boss, your mayor who appointed you, is going to ask you to approve this mayor, found him guilty. It's a
Andrew Gradner.
I've been talking to you fuckers for a couple weeks because you schedule your meeting at the same time as city council, so it's hard to call into both. But we start off with the chief's report, which should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at every meeting. If it exceeds 3 minutes, we should be able to take the same amount of time. And everyone should be heard, both in person and on the phone. Don't intentionally skip over people like you did at one of the meetings a couple weeks ago. So we have donations, $10,000 for the Training Bureau hockey team. Why does the Training Bureau have a hockey team? And why did they need this $10,000 donation? We have, let's see. Oh wait, I missed this. With the $15,000 for the mental health awareness Heart of LAPD walk. What about the mental health of all the people, civilians you harass and harm on a daily basis? Do you care about that? Or the people having mental health crises who the LAPD has shot and killed? Anything about that? We have $5,000 for Southeast Area's Wellness Day. Nothing buys wellness like $5,000. We have $3,000 for the Southeast National Night Out. Fuck National Night Out. That's just, that's just trying to convince the community you're good and, doing all this weird just stuff. You know how the community actually treats people at how the LAPD actually treats people at community engagement events when you start criticizing them. We have $13,000 for a human trafficking task force in Florida. You all gonna meet with that fucking fascist governor Ron DeSantis, learn stuff from that fucking fascist. You seem to all want to be like him, the terrible governor of Florida. We have, let's see, agreement with the Very Good Creative Agency to make up some lies about what you do. I think this is a very bad idea. We have Medal of Valor. So I've missed a couple of stuff, like I haven't been able to mention, I don't know if you all were aware, but the chief of police a couple weeks ago, when he met with the mayor, present at that meeting, was an InfoWars host, Adam King. Any of you have any comment on that? I don't know why the chief of police is meeting with an InfoWars host. Are you concerned about that? You know, the right-wing thing run by Alex Jones? Like, you're all okay with him meeting with an InfoWars host because none of you have objected to that. But y'all just keep lying about what happened at the synagogue and blaming the people who the wrong her.
Next, we have Philip Tabby.
Good morning, all items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
8,824 is our personnel strength, and it feels like that number is lower because it's getting really ugly out there crime-wise. Or is that just a perception? This department does not have the crime statistics posted. Is that to keep us in the dark of what's really going on out there? We all understand it's George Gascon's horrible policies, but don't hide the truth from us. We can see there is an evil power that is controlling the narrative. Gascon is not the only one to point the finger to. He's just the one that has the most blood on his hands. And we know there are command staff members that Gascon has patted on the back with his bloody hands. This is a reason We really need an outside chief of police. We can see you. This department reeks of corruption from the top to the bottom, unfortunately. The bad officers at the bottom are very few, but those at the top are many. However, if we keep going in the direction we are, there will be more bad officers at the bottom, like those who give the public an attitude and refuse to give their badge number, instead, giving a fake one. That officer is no good to us anymore. Fire her immediately. Although it would not surprise me if she gets promoted, taken out to pizza, given an award of excellence, and only handed a paper penalty like Captain Loose Hands Marco Lozano, who touched a woman's thigh, made a community member cry at a meeting, talks about another command staff officer's personnel file, fires me, a volunteer of many years with no reason given, and he ignores our community. Let me give you one example of many. I hope you're listening too, Captain. Recently, a friend of mine who lives in the Riverwood Ranch area of Foothill Division conveyed her appreciation for a particular officer whom went to his lieutenant requesting the road that leads up to the homes is monitored, stating he knows they've had problems the last couple of years. I invited Riverwood Ranch residents to a CPAB meeting last year to discuss this problem they were having. Lozano did nothing. The residents will tell you the same. Instead, this officer who went above and beyond and going to his lieutenant did something knowing there were extra patrol units for the holiday. He did more than Lozano. I highly recommend working on this ongoing situation right away. There are residents who struggle to drive home because river goers, or we call it the wash, park illegally, leave trash, and harass the residents. This problem needs a permanent solution. You would think that the no parking signs would be enforced on a regular basis, but they're not. Chief Choi, please fix this. God bless the LAPD. I yield the rest of my time.
The Red Chief, Hunt.
Thank you, guys. Today, I bring forth that in my community, we can no longer call the watch commander and get service. And that really baffles me that I can't call this number and the watch sergeant cannot generate a police call. That scares the hell out of me because 911, like he said, is a joke. Everybody knows that it takes an hour and 15 minutes to get to my house, and that still haven't been corrected yet. The other thing that I really want to laugh about is that the Metro Police or the LAPD, Metro no longer wants to contract with LAPD. And the reason why is because LAPD took the wrong approach in enforcing not the civil side of it, but the criminal side of it. Because again, 911 is a joke. When it takes, like I said, when the lady got killed, it takes 35 minutes to get to a crime scene, or like he even said, 20 or 30 minutes before you call 911 before they get in your house. That's a big joke. The improvements in areas of LAPD have not really improved. Crime is up because we haven't got our people jobs and stuff like that. The only reason why people are going around stealing or burglarizing people's houses because they don't have jobs in their community and stuff like that. And that's called community-based policing. And last but least, what I want to touch on is the Venice Beach issue, where all the properties is starting to come up missing and things like that, and they controlling that like the 18th Street gang. Troy, what have you done to put investigators out there to make sure that it don't happen? What has been done in the community to make sure that we beautify and keep our community clean? And the only way we're going to get that done is keeping the young people working. And I don't care what you guys say, that's the best form of community-based policing. Like I said, when you call the watch commander and he can't generate a call to your house, a domestic call to your house, there's something wrong with LAPD and the whole system. And there's something really wrong with the 911 system. It's the broken windows theory. We all know that. You guys I don't know what to say about this, but in the South Bureau, you guys have a lot of work to do, and that's where most of the crimes are being committed, and the less officers are being dispatched to in some way or some kind of things. You guys really have to stop this. And then let me tell you about the race car things. Why don't you guys just make it legal and get them a racetrack?
Next, we have Steve Riley.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
2 weeks ago, I mentioned the We Spa incident, and the reason I mentioned it was because there was a false narrative given by Chief Bended Knee Moore from this meeting. And I just want to, if anyone has any questions about that incident, I refer you to the September 3rd, 2021 issue of the New York Post. There's an article by Andy Ngo, that's NGO, you may be familiar with him. And the crime bulletin is actually posted there in the article. That individual identified as a transgender, but if you read the article, you will see he was a criminal engaged in indecent exposure on a regular basis. Also, and this is all public record, also had a long rap sheet that included burglary and escape. I don't know what the others are, it wasn't mentioned. Now, why do I mention that? Because I'm tired of false narratives. And the last meeting we had, President Southers read his script about what happened at the synagogue in Pico Robertson. Now, that was on a Sunday, and the synagogue was being used for a commercial purpose of selling real estate, and people had a right to protest that, believing that that real estate is occupied land. Now, I'm not taking a position one way or the other on that. There's not enough time for that. However, people have a right to be outside on the public street and protest. When the LAPD knows that something this volatile is going to occur because there's advance notice, you should be deployed and ready and prepared to actually guarantee the rights of all parties to peacefully protest. Passions are high, you know that, be prepared. From what I understand, there was only one arrest made. Now, oh, by the way, at the We Spot, how do I know what happened? I was there. I was there collecting signatures to recall George Gascon as a neutral party. And that's how I witnessed what I saw. And that's why I say Chief Bended Knee Moore, he lied about that because he was not there. But somebody provided a false narrative for him to read. Does that sound similar to what's happening today? Okay, so another thing I'm concerned about is the website needs to be updated. It really could be utilized in a much more effective way. You have an events section. There was one event there, and it's a good event, but it needs to be updated. Who is watching the store on the website? Getting back to the incident at Pico Robertson, I had to do my own research, look up status coup, that's status, COUP.com, where you can actually see video of what happened. Because I'd like to believe the LAPD, but I have to actually verify now. As for 911, I hear horror stories all the time, dangerous situations, and the response time is an hour and a half, 2 hours, or no response. It's unacceptable. You have to do better. Everybody has to do their job. Take a look at the encampment at First and Spring. That should be obvious. It needs to be dealt with.
Hamid Khan.
There's a couple of significant news items, or the way things are written in this agenda. So, in the consent item number 1 is about $15,000 to the Heart of LAPD Mental Health and Suicide Awareness Walk in September 2024. There's an article in the LA Times yesterday or the day before where the title of the article was basically something to the extent that LAPD continues to shoot people during mental health crisis. And this has been the record for the LAPD for how many years we've been coming over here, that 1/3 of the shootings that LAPD has been doing has been about people with known mental health condition, having mental health crisis, but still, there we go. And the other news of significance was the $21 or $22 million payout that the city has to do when the LAPD blew up the neighborhood. Now, I say all that, and Rasha Shields, you were just making a comment about the street takeovers and all of that stuff, that if you were to count the dollars and cents that have been spent on training the LAPD, since at least I've been coming to these commission meetings, which goes over 15 or almost 20 years, it would be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And we come back with that where, well, gee, sorry, we just, somebody had an edged weapon, somebody had a plastic fork, somebody had a plastic knife, so we had to shoot them. What happened to all the goddamn de-escalation training? What happened to all the use of force training? What happened? But we know that that is useless because it is not in this department's DNA, because we have to look at it that it is a counterinsurgency force. It is there as any other occupying army. The whole thing that has been developed over the last 170 years is about that. But, the rhythm continues. And the answer that we hear from the commission just now was to install more license plate readers. And that's what we get out of techno-solutionism, that it's a technology that we have to go into, not thinking that the massive amount of data and surveillance and racial profiling that it leads to. So that's where the fight is. Second thing I want to talk about is our constant fight with the Department over Public Records. We have to constantly sue. And just to let you know that, the city itself and the city attorney, who has her own political agenda, frivolously filing lawsuits against Stop LAPD Spying Coalition, and then they had to pay out $300,000 to legal fees. Then the second case about the cross-complaint, we won that cross-complaint too, but we will force the court to release the names of all of these 900 John Does who have filed the lawsuit, and then we got pulled in.
Thank you.
Next, we have Megan Wiles. Megan, you're on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, yes. What items would you like to speak on?
All items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah, just curious, we had a 5K run to honor the fallen officers. I'm just wondering when the 5K run is to honor all the people that you've killed. When do we honor the families of the people that you've murdered? I've never seen you do that. It's the deadliest police department in the country. Not the biggest, but it's the deadliest. All of you up here falling all over each other to talk about the horrific violence that your officers face at traffic stops, but hardly a peep when your officers cause horrific violence at traffic stops. I started attending these meetings shortly after you murdered Keenan Anderson at a traffic stop, an unarmed school teacher in the midst of a mental health crisis. He's dead. His kids will never see him again, but Rasha's in a panic that city council will remove armed officers from traffic stops. We've got zero tolerance policy for street takeovers, but all the tolerance in the world for police officers who kill wantonly, who assault and rape and stalk community members and each other. You don't value the lives of everyday community members. When an officer falls, it's a tragedy. And when one of us falls, it's, unfortunate, inevitable collateral damage. It's really disgusting. And I struggle all the time with whether or not it's useful to come to these meetings and even talk to you. You clearly don't value my participation or participation from the public. You've made the meeting at a time that's difficult for most of us to attend. It's in a place that's filled with people with guns who have a history of shooting them for literally no reason. You regularly refuse to let people speak who took the time to show up in person and call in, even though I'm old enough to remember when Errol started his presidency, patting himself on the back for allowing all in-person community members to speak. What happened to that? Why do we come here? I remember asking this question of another community member, and they said, so at least they don't get to hold their fake accountability meeting in peace. And that's reason enough for me. At least you have to hear for roughly 5 to 20 minutes on most Tuesdays for that minuscule amount of time. You have to be face to face and in the same room with the truth about your incompetence, hypocrisy, and increasingly fascist actions. And that strengthens my commitment to abolition and conviction that we will see the end of your reign of terror in Los Angeles. I yield the rest of my time.
Matios Cadet.
Matias Quirano with the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. Just a couple things off the top. This task force on human trafficking is a proxy for targeting sex workers in the Figueroa corridor. As we all know, that's what this entire narrative is about. So just wanted to name that on that donation front. Secondly, this call for more ALPRs to address concerns of public safety is, kind of ridiculous and a little irresponsible when we think about what ALPRs have been used for historically. Just last year, we saw a report come out that 35 agencies in the state of California had been sharing ALPR information with anti-abortion states, right, against their own policies, right? And so the ACLU actually wrote a letter and sent it to the Attorney General Bonta, and he had to come in and kind of step in and say, hey, agencies, don't do this. But they do this regardless. Anytime we ask for more ALPRs, all it means is more resources for these police departments, and it means more data to criminalize people. Beyond all that, we know that this information is from these agencies funneled into fusion centers, right, where federal agencies have access to them. And even when they're not kind of slipped in innocuously like that, we have departments like Pasadena and Long Beach, right, both sanctuary cities, who explicitly have shared this information with ICE to specifically target, undocumented folks. And so when we ask for more ALPRs, that's what we're asking for. We're asking to criminalize people seeking reproductive health, right, and people who are undocumented. That's what's going on here. Secondly, Commissioner Garcia, this whole notion of, partnering with these private companies to discount cameras, that's not a new notion. In fact, LAPD was doing it covertly as early as 2016, where we had officers effectively selling cameras for Ring, right? And they were caught out against the LAPD's own policy. I think in the course of this public comment, I've named at least 3 instances where LAPD has violated their own policy, just to show how much that's worth. And just to say, these cameras later on in 2020 were used to target protesters, right? That's what they're for. So it's never kept anybody safe. These expansions in technology have never kept anybody safe. They've just lined the pockets of this department consistently. And this may all seem kind of innocuous, but I think it's important to uplift the inherent violence within this department, right? And so Hamid earlier brought up that, even 31%, right, of all shootings that LAPD have been involved in have involved people experiencing a mental health crisis, right? And so that's inherently violent. But even if we look at a line item as innocuous as this LAPD hockey team donation, right? LAPD sports teams are inherently violent, right? So we saw a report in October of last year where the Centurions, right, their football team, there's there's accusations, there's a whole lawsuit about a group sexual assault that took place, right, that implicates so many officers there. Officer James C. Nick.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr.
Thank
Singh.
you.
Hello?
Hi, what items would you like to speak on?
All items.
Okay, 2 minutes.
I want to start off with, we talk about how there's not as many officers and the response times, an hour, up to an hour, or maybe more than that. I mean, you could be at gunpoint. So go out and buy yourself a gun, people, because the LAPD is not going to show up to protect you. I mean, that's obvious. And I think you guys would agree with me, probably. I'm sure you all have guns in your home. Oh, wait a minute, you're all cops. You all have guns. Of course you do. And I want to just let you also know who's doing the hiring at LAPD. January 2024, you guys memorialized the right to hire DACA recipients. Is illegal immigration illegal? Can you come across our border illegally? Is it a crime? Apparently not. You guys are probably all okay with it because you're hiring the DACA recipients. There was no U.S. citizens applying for jobs with the LAPD that you had to bring in. I said 10 at that time, it's probably more now. 10 children of illegal immigrants came into our country and got jobs at the LAPD, highly sought after jobs. These are well-paying jobs, right? Nobody's paid a pittance of a salary there. It's not like you're working at In-N-Out or Taco Bell. These are highly paid jobs for the children of illegal immigrants. Wow. Do we have a country anymore? Doesn't seem like it. It's abundantly clear also, on another note, that you guys don't care about the Catholic community in Los Angeles. You really don't. The tearing down of the Universo statue is proof of that. They were told to stand down and let a radical mob of BLM and fake indigenous people tear it down. So no statue is going to be safe in Los Angeles. As long as we can take it down before the police get there and there's no cameras around, nothing's going to be done, right? Oh, wait a minute. Or is it just because it was a Catholic statue and it wasn't a BLM statue or a, we can pick all kinds of groups and say, whose stuff's going to be protected? Is mine going to be protected? Obviously not. And, so this is the way it goes in Los Angeles, and then we have our, I hope it's true, Chief Choi, that we're not going to be tolerating violent protests. I really hope that's a true statement because they've been tolerated so many times before and allowed to happen. Look at all the college protests that happened. There was some violent stuff going on there. I don't know. I mean, Los Angeles is kind of a mess. Start hiring the right people from the right places. Why don't you guys go to martial arts studios and hire people from there? These are people that are trained in physical combat in some sort. They can actually be hired to do the job. See, go to college campuses where you find people that are working towards criminal justice. You're hiring people from DACA recipients. I don't get this. God bless the LAPD, and I pray for all of the officers, good and bad, the good that they're protected and the bad that they repent. Have a good day.
Jamie Cusick.
So I didn't get called on to speak at former Commissioner Briggs's final meeting a few weeks ago, which is because, as we all know, you do screen callers on Zoom. Anyway, since my voice as one of the citizens this board allegedly represents was actively silenced last month, I'll make it very clear right now to you remaining commissioners how fucking enraging and revolting it was to listen to Briggs itemize all the things he was most proud of having accomplished during his time on commission. Among these accomplishments were going on ride-alongs and learning about the training that cops undergo. In other words, he was proud of having blatantly prioritized their point of view. This is antithetical to the alleged purpose of this commission, which is supposed to provide objective oversight of police. You are supposed to safeguard against their misconduct and corruption on behalf of us, the civilians. And yet, as made overtly clear by Briggs, you wholly identify with the police. And to speak to another point he made in his remarks about the so-called work that you all do in this commission, to be clear, you do not do anything resembling labor. You were appointed to this position in order to do nothing, to question nothing, to say nothing, to give your tacit consent to every single thing LAPD requests. This commission is a sham. And Briggs perfectly evidenced its sham-like nature with his patronizing remarks about the body that he referred to as, quote, the audience. What a telling word choice. By audience, he was referring to the community members who show up in person or on Zoom every week at a ridiculous time of day, at inevitable cost to our jobs and our lives, and sacrifice our time and work to tell you very specifically how we want you to oversee a department that is funded by our tax dollars. The point of this meeting is for you to take our opinions into account, and yet he referred to us as the audience, as in a passive body of people who, by definition, cannot impact what takes place on the stage where you perform this act of political theater every Tuesday morning. That is a commissioner's metaphor that I'm using here. Those are your words. And so I just have to laugh at Briggs's claim on the 18th that you actually listen to us. The fact that you might listen to us and understand what we're telling you would be even more egregious than the idea that you tune us out. Because it indicates that you understand that the funding that you approve here week after fucking week is the funding that enables LAPD's constant campaign of harassment, racism, sexual abuse of women, sexual abuse of children, terrorism, and death. I would sarcastically say that I hope Briggs enjoys his retirement, but as discussed, he is retiring from nothing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Corey S. Jonathan Foster. Oh, Corey S. Corey S. is here.
Corey Schmidt for the record. Nice to see you guys. How you guys doing? Okay, so first on the list, I guess, to talk about today is I guess we're having a suicide walk. Who is actually going on that? Okay, next is okay, so you guys like skating. I like skating too. It's item number 2 though, I think, right? But I like skating. I'm glad you guys did too. Okay, so the third one is I guess a wellness day in I guess Janet Ham's district. So what, for $5,000, some sort of donation, I guess? Oh, but it's on the 26th of June, so that makes it okay, right? Okay. Okay. So next is July 3rd, National Night Out. You know, I agree. Is that over on 2nd and Broadway? Okay. Let's see. 6 officers going to Florida. Thumbs up. You know, donation for that. Let's see. What else? Oh, another good one. I had this cross my mind. So we're talking about Medal of Valor, I guess, and the item number I guess. 3I. Interesting. Anyways, so what constitutes the Purple Heart? I was wondering, you know, what's a, you know what I mean? Like, it's usually a wound you get during war, right? So, you know, I'm just trying to think of, like, is dressing open dermis? Is that, you know, in the most unsanitary of conditions? Is that, you know, doing it yourself for like a week or more until it starts to heal up and seal? Does that count? Does that count? You get to park in that parking space. Yeah. So that's what I was wondering. Sounds like we have some more discipline to do, but I'll let you guys handle that.
And the final
Thank you.
speaker, Jonathan Foster.
Hi, good morning, Jonathan Foster. How about this one?
Oh, good grief. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam
And you
and
didn't
will
take
now
off
be
for Martin
content
Luther King or
will have a rude
Juneteenth.
awakening if the nation returns to business as usual.
So it definitely is returned into business as usual. Here, they'll tell you this one.
Let that happen again. Last week, Crooked Joe signed an executive order
Another
that is
crooked
pro-invasion, pro-child trafficking,
You gotta
pro-woman
protect this guy if he
trafficking,
becomes president.
pro-human trafficking, and pro-drug dealers. It's a pro-drug dealer bill. It's weak. It's ineffective. It's bullshit what he signed.
Yeah. Yeah, just a bunch of bullshit. And I really don't like the guy because I ran against him in 2016. I filed it in Washington, D.C. And I wanted to quickly say something about Brigonometer. He did say that he didn't know what he was doing. He was made a commissioner, and then he said, "I did not know what I was doing." That's pretty sick. So let's talk about the knife thing, right? And the police officers that were shot. And I've told this commission in the police department how to stop this, how this would change. And Rasha isn't listening. I know I don't matter. They've been doing this for 10 or 15, 20 years, and it's still happening, shooting the people that are mentally ill. So not much has changed. A lot of people have said this, you know this. And so there aren't enough police officers, firemen, lifeguards, bus drivers, MTA operators. I mean, just go on. We don't have enough, but apparently we got 340 million people, but we don't have enough people here. And what's really disgusting is this 3 black people they had their rental car towed. There's 150,000 people for reparations, but they say they don't have the money, but it's going to DACA people. And it just goes to DACA and goes to DACA. And when he said, if the nation returns to business as usual, and yet it is, and how they erase Martin Luther King's voice is they just flood the place with millions and millions and millions of people that are not allowed to be here, and now the black man does not have a voice. And black people think I'm racist, and I'm like, no, 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 you don't understand. I'm actually on your side too, very much.
Thank you.
And we have no other speakers, sir.
Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item number 3, consent agenda items. We have items 3A through I. I have questions on F, G, and H, so I'd ask that we pull those. Are there any questions on A through I? Vice President Shields?
I just had a comment about I, so we can either pull that or.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Got it. I. Commissioner Kalanche?
I too wanted to pull G, so thank you for that.
Okay. And Commissioner Garcia?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we will pull items F, G, H, and I. So I would move that we adopt the recommendation for board action on items 3A, B, C, and D. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to item E. Did we pull E?
No, you did not, sir.
We did not. Okay. If there are no comments or questions on 3E, I would move that we adopt a recommendation for board action on item 3E. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 3F. And for 3F, we have Deputy Chief Tengrides. I'm sorry, we have Police Administrator Betty Collins. I'm sorry. Okay. An old agenda and a new agenda where it got. I had a draft and a real one, and we got shuffled around here. Apologies for that. Okay, Ms. Collins, thank you for being here this morning. Okay. 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 Thank you. So the only question, did anyone have a question besides myself on F? Okay, Commissioner Calantre, please, go ahead.
Good morning. This is a really important contract. So I wanted to get your feedback or just learn about why we've selected this company as the recipient of this contract. So, yeah, so.
Commissioner,
Okay. I'm sorry, are we on?
confirming we're on 3F, which is the
Okay, sorry about
contract for
that.
Clean Harbors.
I think we have all I have my agenda items. I'm sorry, I will wait for G, sorry.
We had two different agendas and they got shuffled, so, okay.
Yes, sorry about that.
That's okay. So, 3F, the only question that I had was I wanted to know if the Clean Harbors Environmental Services Incorporated is a local business.
As far as it being, they have a local presence here. So we've been using this company actually probably over 25 years, but they do have a local presence here.
That's the only question I had. I always want to see that we can certainly support our local businesses whenever possible. So
Right.
I would imagine at 25 years, I would say they have a presence here.
Over, yes.
Okay, more than 25 years. Is there anyone else with a question on 3F? Okay, hearing none, then I would move that we recommend adopt a recommendation for board action. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Moving on to 3G. And 3G is the request for approval for a professional services agreement between the City of Los Angeles and a Very Good Creative Agency for marketing and advertising. And now we have Deputy Chief Reyna and Captain Patillo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chief Choi, Inspector General, Mr. City Attorney. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Captain Patillo, who's been extremely involved, obviously, in the contract process for our marketing, so I'll just turn it over to her.
Good morning. I wanted to give a brief overview and remind everyone we are here. The last appearance we made before the board was on March 26th, when the board had approved the selection of the Very Good Creative Agency. This process began July 18th in 2023, when this board approved the release of the request for proposals. This process, the actual RFP was released in August 10th, 2023. We received 13 qualified applications. This was a process where they all had to be reviewed by a selection committee. Then there was a period of protests where 2 companies filed protests, and those were handled independently. Upon settlement of the protests, we selected VGCA, Very Good Creative Agency. After March 26th approval, we've been in negotiations with them on the contract. This has been with the help of Fiscal Group, and they've helped us as to the language, what should be in the contract as to form, and we made sure that this contract, what we thought would be good for us and for the marketing of recruitment and hiring.
Okay, thank you.
And Commissioner, we just add on, so through that process, the City Attorney's Office reviews that contract. So between Recruitment Division, Training Bureau, the City Attorney's Office, and Fiscal Group in the contract section, everyone has reviewed this. And we've, in a sense, agreed to this, to move this contract forward. So that's why we're here today, for the approval from the Commission to move forward with it.
Thank you both. I have 2 questions. I noticed this company is located in Durham, North Carolina. So my first question, as it was for the last motion, next action we just took, is there no company in Los Angeles, or what's the presence this company's had in Los Angeles that caused us or moved us to choose them?
This company does have an office in Los Angeles on Abbott Kinney, but yes, they are based out of state. There were other companies that were based in Los Angeles, but as far as for qualifications and presentations on what we thought would be a new, fresh way to move marketing and recruitment onto the youngest generation and appeal, we thought this company fit us and was the best fit.
Okay. Then the second question I have is, again, we're talking about marketing and advertising for recruitment, training, those elements which are certainly priorities for this department, and not something that just any advertising and marketing company can do. I'd like to know, if you have that information available, are there any other police departments they've worked with across the country?
No, they've worked with the Army, National Guard, and other public agencies such as PBS. And that's what I can remember offhand. I think some other, not California, other state entities.
Okay. Okay. Just my concern, because this is something that we want to make sure that we've got the best company in the country working with us on this. It is a priority. Recruiting police officers, as you both know, because I see you every month at Amundsen, is not an easy thing to do, and I just want to make sure that we have the best company working with us as we go forward.
We feel we do. After the presentations, especially with VGCA, and their work with the National Guard, and like Captain Patillo said, the new, fresh look at the marketing and their strategies, we're very impressed by their presentation. So we feel we've selected the right company.
And to be honest, we did receive, without naming any companies, but we received companies that had worked with various law enforcement agencies, but some of them seemed to have a quite stale perspective. And as I've been doing this for about 1.5 years, I've realized that we need anything but a stale perspective.
You're right. As we see each Saturday, this is a different demographic with a different set of expectations. And I'm glad that we have someone who understands the 21st century in going forward and trying to get in front of these folks to recruit them to this department. So thank you. Commissioner Kalanche.
Thank you. Just wanted to find out what excited you about this company, like what is the fresh new perspective? Because I think that we want to be excited about the company. So like what is it that like really grabbed you that you think that this is the right company?
Their presentation was very fresh, and after looking at 13 of them, this was the only one I think that the entire group enjoyed reviewing and reading. And in a sense, they sold themselves to us when shouldn't all marketing companies be selling themselves to their clients? But other presentations were just loaded with words and not exciting. The references really appealed to my sense of that this was a company that could bring us into the digital world, talk us through it. They were experienced in working with restricted budgets and working with beginners and people that are not acquainted with doing marketing and advertising. And all the references were very excited about the prospect of them working with us, and they felt that they could bring us into a good position to attract more people to the policing profession.
One of the comments from I'm just summarizing from one of the references, was about the digital social media marketing that they thought was incredible. And the company walked them through it, explained the whole process as they went, why they do certain things, worked with the entities that they had contracted with. So they were very excited about it, not only to learn as they're going through from the company, but having someone teach them as they're going through and show them why they're doing certain things. And that was one of the things that caught us, was that you have a company that's going to work with us and explain exactly why they're doing certain things on social media and digital media, and how they're doing it and how they're measuring the effectiveness of that.
And I'm assuming that they have experience with our target demographic.
Not only that, but they understand that I need to increase diversity in our hiring, and we've had discussions about that.
So this would also involve, I'm assuming it involved like print, video, all types of marketing tools?
Yes, and the contract does give a baseline of what it would include, but doesn't limit us to those. For instance, one of the references, who was a high-ranking person in the PBS organization, had told me not to waste money on print. And that's something that I'm going to keep in the back of my mind, because I need to get the most for my money, or our money here.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that you guys are excited about this company, because I think it's going to make a difference if you really believe that this company is the right company to get us to where we're trying to go.
Very excited, and in our negotiations, I can tell they're excited. They're going to be very, I think, in link with us. And even though we are not their client yet, I can tell they've already been in the investigative and examining phase. So they're very curious about us.
Great, thank you.
Vice President Shields? None? Commissioner Garcia?
Yeah, thank you. Curious, I know there's a provision for subcontractors, but did they present any subcontractors up to this point?
There is a subcontractor that I believe that they work with as far as media buying and purchasing. As far as anything else, I'm not aware of at this time, but I could find out.
Okay. And so would it make sense to potentially have a local marketing group as a subcontractor to provide some really sort of local LA insight? And then the other part of that would be, is there an advisory committee set up in the contract, or could that still be introduced into the conversations of the contract, where an advisory committee would sit and meet with them on a regular basis, and that could include community leaders, law enforcement from multiple levels of the department, and maybe even like social workers or, you know, what someone would think of like a non-traditional law enforcement lens to the table. Again, just as an advisory group or table to ensure that we are, again, targeting a mix of officers with a mix of lenses from an array of backgrounds and histories in and around LA.
Part of the contracting process did include a requirement that the company do the, I think it's called the Business Inclusion Program, which was outreach to local LA firms and that had to do with diversity. And I know that they met all those requirements, and Fiscal Group was in charge of ensuring that this company met all the requirements of the RFP. As far as developing an advisory committee, I don't believe that at this point in time in the contract's already been negotiated. So we would have to go back and probably renegotiate if that was the case.
That doesn't preclude us from having our own, and we spoke about this before when we presented the commission, of working with CSPB, Community Safety Partnership Bureaus, to bring key stakeholders in from the communities to discuss with us. Again, we have the openness with this contract and the company to go through our ideas that we want to use and work with the company. So that doesn't mean, even though the contract may be in a sense settled already and before us for approval, that we can have an advisory board working with us to relay our desires or concerns or things that we want to do to the company as we're working through the marketing strategies.
I think another way to do get some input is to poll those coming in the door at the application phase to see if they were attracted by any of the current or newer marketing and what impact it had on them. I think that'd be helpful as well.
Thank you.
I have one question. I thought I had no questions. But I was wondering whether some of the marketing will also be aimed at reserve officers. I think they're kind of a hidden gem for the department, and that also can attract people from a variety of different fields. And every time I meet a reserve officer and hear what their day job is, I'm just really surprised. And so I'd love for that to also be kind of something that you all are thinking about in terms of, and that also helps to improve our ranks.
Absolutely. We can work with the company on that.
Okay. So if there are no additional comments or questions, I would move that we approve the department's report and transmit to the mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 3H is the department's report relative to home garaging authorities for the fiscal year 24-25. With Police Administrator 3, Anne-Marie Sauer-Hale. Good morning. Anne-Marie, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay.
This year, we are recommending 1,154, and the committee that reviews the home garaging program consists of the Director of the Office of Support Services, who serves as the chair, the Director of the Office of Special Operations, Director of OO, and the Chief of Staff. And so we had a number of items to review, and ultimately, like I said, we had the 22 new, and that include, or sorry, 27 new ones that were approved, including one for the civilian commanding officer for the public information director at Media Relations.
Thank you. The question I had was, I wanted to know when an HGA is deactivated,
Yes.
first, what does that mean? And then what's the method of compliance to actually ensure that that's happened?
So, for example, there's one command that has an assistant commanding officer that is a senior management analyst too. So that's a lieutenant 2 equivalent. And the committee decided that would be something we should deactivate and take away because we sort of get into equity issues. So in that case, once this is approved, we will notify those commands that that's deactivated, and then we'll ensure we'll take the car back and we will work with that command to essentially remove that home garaging authority for this fiscal year.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions on this item? Okay. Hearing none, I would move that we approve the department's report. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I'll just stay where I am for
Okay.
3I.
Item 3I is the department's report relative to the recommendation for the Medal of Valor as set forth. And the reason that I didn't vote on this is because I didn't want it to be swept up with a number of other items that are important, but in my mind, not as important as this one.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to make a comment about the list of officers from Metropolitan Division, Hollenbeck area, and Van Nuys area that'll be receiving their awards at the Medal of Valor ceremony on September 5th, 2024, and thank them for their service. I know that we'll all get the details of the events they were involved in that night, but to read some of these sends chills through me with regards to how heroic and how brave they were to respond to these incidents throughout the city. So I just wanted to make that comment to thank them for their service, and I look forward to that event. I have no questions or comments unless my fellow commissioners have questions or comments on this item.
I just also had to comment on this one as well and echo President Souther's sentiments to thank all the officers for their bravery and diligence. And I would, without wanting to take away from the event on September 5th, where we will have more of a presentation of these events, I would recommend that we put it on the agenda for some time after September 5th, that we actually have a presentation to the board of the Medal of Valor recipients and invite them to attend if they're available and not working, or potentially can get away. But I think it would be helpful for the commission and the public to see the reasons why these Medal of Valor awards are being received.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia?
Same, no questions, and really echoing what was said. Looking forward to the 5th, and definitely looking forward to the presentation afterwards here. Again, I think it's important for folks to see why these are received and the situations that some of our officers find themselves in. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kalanche?
So I will add my comments. Just want to thank you for working on this and putting this together. I know that there's like a nomination process and there's review, but just want to echo what has been said. This is really important to highlight the bravery and what it takes, to do this job, daily, and the danger that it poses at times. So I just want to thank you and also acknowledge the officers. And I really look forward to having them come to commission. I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely. And I would say, since I know you, my PSA will be, as you visit commands, feel free to encourage them to nominate folks. I mean, we have a number of major commendations that, we have a very thoughtful board that I'm fortunate to chair. And again, we welcome nominations. Obviously, some of these, you've seen in the news, you've seen the front page of the paper. But, I mean, we have daily across this city, our officers doing amazing work. So, thank you.
Thank you. And when you do come before the commission, do take the time to educate the public on the criteria and qualifications for these awards. It seems we had some questions this morning with regards to why does a person get that award?
Yes.
Let's let them know.
Absolutely. So we'll do that when we come back later? Okay,
Yes.
sure. We will be ready for that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no other comments or questions, I would move that we adopt the recommendation for board action. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The board will now recess for our closed session items. Thank you.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss items number 4A, B, and C in accordance to Government Code 54957.
The commission has completed its closed session today. We will have a readout by Acting Executive Director Sibley. Mr. Sibley?
Thank you, Mr. President. At the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on July 9th, 2024, during the closed session, the board made the following findings regarding item 4A1, officer involved shooting 035-23. By a 3-1 vote for tactics, the board made a finding of tactical debrief for 1 Sergeant 1, 1 Police Officer 3, and 7 Police Officers 2. For drawing exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 1 Police Officer 3, and 7 Police Officers 2. For lethal use of force, by a 4-0 vote, in policy, no further action, 5 Police Officers 2, and out of policy, administrative disapproval, 1 Police Officer 2. For an additional Police Officer 2, in policy, no further action, rounds 1 through 9, and out of policy, administrative disapproval, rounds 10 through 12. And for 1 Police Officer 3, in policy, no further action, rounds 1 through 3, and out of policy, administrative disapproval, rounds 4 through 5. As to item 4A2, OIS 03723, by a 4-0 vote, for tactics, tactical debrief, 1 Sergeant 1, 2 Police Officers 3, and 6 Police Officers 2, and administrative disapproval for 1 Sergeant 1. For drawing an exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 2 Police Officers 3, and 6 Police Officers 2. For less lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 4 Police Officers 2, and for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 2 Police Officers 2 and 2 Police Officers 3. Moving on to item 4B, the matter was discussed, and for item 4C, the matter was discussed. And then in addition to the closeout report for today's meeting, I just have a couple of minor corrections to the information that was read out for the closeout for the June 25th, 2024 meeting. And the corrections are as follows. For officer involved shooting 034-23, the less lethal use of force was reported out as in policy for 1 Police Officer 3, and that should have been 1 Police Officer 2. And for non-tactical unintentional discharge case 036-23, the finding for the unintentional discharge was reported out as administrative disapproval, and that should have been negligent administrative disapproval. And that concludes the closeout report.
Thank you. If there are no other matters before us, I would move that we adjourn today's meeting. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.